Welcome back. Let's get straight away more on our top story. As promised, Sergei Skripal, the former Russian spy who's in intensive care along with his daughter in a UK hospital. Police believe they came into contact with an unknown substance before they were found passed out in the British city of Salisbury. With me here in the studio is Dr. Samuel Greene, Director of the Russia Institute at King's College London and author of Moscow in Movement, Power and Opposition in Putin's Russia. Welcome here to the programme. A massive caveat straight away right at the start that we don't know yet. That's what we're waiting for in terms of the police investigation. Just about every key detail is unknown, but just in terms of a snapshot of what you've seen so far, where does it take you?
Well, I mean, it takes us to the questions that we're all asking. I mean, everybody is looking at Russia. Everybody is looking towards Russia. It seems almost obviously there is no evidence whatsoever about this investigation. But it's become very hard for really anybody in this conversation right now to have any theory about this that doesn't lead somehow back to Moscow.
Why?
Well, for a couple of reasons. One is obviously that's the story of this individual. Now, there's not a lot we know about what he's been doing here since he did come to the UK. He's kept a very low profile, right? But you know, the reality is there's history, right? We've mentioned the Litvinenko case, and we're all aware of similar cases in the past. But also, frankly, there's not a lot of trust right now among British society, among the government and in the media towards Russia, towards its capabilities, towards its intentions. So it seems like a natural place for suspicions to go.
So in that sense, that backdrop is part of, perhaps when we talk about timing, that's part of that backdrop. You have elections, though, in Russia as well. How would that fit in?
Well, I mean, I think it's a bit far-fetched to think that this would have been done for the purposes of elections. The likelihood, the reality is that Putin win those elections really going away. But he has built his campaign around a sense of confrontation and conflict with the West, that Russia to a certain extent is at war. Now is not the time to change your leadership. And the sorts of messages now that are coming out of London that we heard from Boris Johnson, that we are hearing more broadly about the need to somehow respond to Russia, what will look to Russians very much like a knee-jerk reaction, is you know, frankly playing into that rhetoric that is helpful for Putin.
You talk about Putin's rhetoric in the past. I mean, I want to play for our viewers just a clip from Vladimir Putin actually talking from a few years ago about this particular spy swap when he was asked about Russians betraying their country. Just have a listen to this.
Traitors will kick the bucket. Trust me. These people betrayed their friends, their brothers in arms. Whatever they got in exchange for it, those 30 pieces of silver they were given, they will choke on them.
Vladimir Putin has a very strong sense, doesn't he, about the rules of espionage.
Well, I mean, I think we have to be very careful when we talk about the rules of espionage. The reality is that those rules, if they're written, they're not written in any place where we in the general public in the media or in academia are going to have access to them. And so we're left guessing. We're left, as it were, reading the tea leaves. It's, you know, again, it's hard to know what Mr. Skripal might have been doing in addition to simply keeping his head down in the UK. It's hard to know what the more immediate motivations to this.
And the Russian offer to cooperate, be part of the investigation, what do you make of that? I
wouldn't make much of that. I mean, I think diplomatically they have to make that offer. The reality is that if this investigation does lead to Russia, the cooperation will end there. Russia will not extradite suspects. Russia will probably not be very coming in terms of helping any British investigators follow up leads in Moscow or around the country.
All right, Dr. Samuel Greene, thanks so much for those thoughts on this developing story and moving story. Thanks very much for now.